Here's a scene you've probably lived, or at least witnessed up close. Someone pulls up in a nice car, nice watch, vacation photos every few months, and your brain automatically files them under doing well. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Looking successful and being financially secure are two completely different games, and a huge number of people are quietly winning the first one while losing the second one badly. This isn't about judging anyone's choices. It's about a pattern that's costing people real money, real years, real financial security, and almost nobody names it directly because it feels a little too close to home. So today, I want to break down the actual math behind looking successful, why our brains are so easily fooled by it, and what it's genuinely costing the people caught in it. My name is Jordan. If you've ever compared yourself to someone who seems like they're doing better financially, this one might change how you look at that comparison completely. All right, let's start with why this illusion works so well in the first place. Here's the core problem. Almost everything that signals success is visible, and almost everything that actually builds wealth is invisible. The car is visible. The retirement account balance is not. The vacation photos are visible. The emergency fund is not. The new phone every year is visible. The index fund contributions happening quietly every paycheck are not. So your brain, which is wired to make snap judgments based on available information, ends up building an entire picture of someone's financial life using only the 10% of it that happens to be on display. And that 10% is, statistically, often inversely related to the invisible 90%. Let's put real numbers on it, because this is where it gets really interesting. Say two people both earn $80,000 a year. Person A leases a $55,000 SUV, upgrades their phone every year, takes 2 or 3 vacations annually, financed partly on credit, and lives in a nicer apartment than they strictly need. Person B drives a 7-year-old paid-off sedan, has an older phone, takes 1 modest vacation a year, and lives in a perfectly fine but unremarkable apartment. From the outside, Person A looks like they're winning. Person B looks, frankly, kind of boring. Now let's look at what's actually happening financially. Person A's SUV lease runs roughly $700 a month. Add gas, insurance, and maintenance on a bigger vehicle, and transportation alone is eating close to $1,000 a month. The vacations, financed partly on a credit card carrying a balance, are quietly accumulating interest at 20% or more. The phone upgrades, the wardrobe refreshes, the dining out that comes with an image to maintain. By the time you add it all up, Person A is often spending 90 to 100% of their take-home income, sometimes more once the credit card interest is included. Person B's paid-off sedan costs maybe $200 a month in gas, insurance, and maintenance combined. The older phone still works fine. The modest apartment saves several $100s a month compared to what Person A is paying for extra space and a nicer building. All of that freed up money, let's conservatively say $1,500 a month, goes into a retirement account and a taxable investment account instead. Over 20 years, at a reasonably historical 8% annual return, that $1,500 a month invested grows to somewhere around $880,000. Person A, over that same 20 years, has a garage full of depreciated vehicles they never owned outright, closets full of stuff that's mostly lost its value, memories from vacations that were genuinely fun in the moment, and quite possibly still carries revolving credit card debt from some of them. Person B has $880,000. And from the outside, absolutely nobody would have guessed it. This is the actual cost of looking successful. It's not just the money spent in any given month, it's the compounding growth that money could have generated instead, silently accumulating in the background of a life that never looked particularly impressive from the outside. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Jordan, but isn't this just be frugal, don't spend money, which every finance channel already says? Not quite. Because here's the part that actually matters, and it's more psychological than mathematical. The reason this trap is so sticky isn't that people don't know spending less would help them save more. It's that the visible signals of success provide something the invisible ones don't: immediate social feedback. When you drive a nice car, people notice, in real time, in a way your retirement account balance never gets to. Humans are wired for status, for belonging, for being seen as doing well among their peer group. And the retirement account, no matter how large it eventually gets, doesn't give you that feedback loop today. It gives it to you in 20 years, quietly, with nobody clapping.
This is why so many financially secure people are quietly comfortable being underestimated, and so many financially fragile people are constantly performing wealth they don't have. The performance is buying something real: social standing, belonging, status. It's just buying it with money that could have bought financial freedom instead. And most people never sit down and actually compare the size of those two purchases side by side. Here's an analogy that makes this click. Imagine two athletes training for the same competition. One spends all their energy on flashy warm-up routines that impress the crowd before the event even starts. The other spends that same energy quietly building actual strength that nobody sees until the moment it matters. Both athletes look completely different walking into the arena, but only one of them is actually prepared for what the competition demands. Financial life works the same way. The warm-up routine is loud, visible, and immediately rewarding. The actual strength building is quiet, invisible, and only pays off much later, when it matters most. Now, I want to be careful here, because this isn't an argument for a joyless, deprived life, where you never enjoy anything visible or fun. That's its own trap, just in the opposite direction. The goal isn't zero enjoyable spending. The goal is being honest about which purchases are actually making your life better versus which purchases are primarily maintaining an image for other people. Here's a simple test that helps separate the two. Ask yourself, would I still buy this if literally nobody else would ever see it, know about it, or find out about it? A vacation you'd take even if you never posted a single photo is probably genuinely for you. A car upgrade you'd only want because of how it looks pulling into a parking lot is probably at least partly for other people. Neither answer is automatically wrong, but knowing the honest answer changes whether that purchase is buying you happiness or buying you status. And status purchases aren't inherently evil either. Status is a real human need, and there's nothing wrong with wanting some of it. The problem is when status spending consumes the majority of your income instead of a deliberate, bounded portion of it, leaving nothing left over to build the invisible side of your financial life. So here's a more useful framework than just spend less. First, separate your spending into two honest categories: things you'd want even with zero social visibility, and things that exist at least partly for how they're perceived by others. Second, put a real number on your status spending, a specific monthly or annual budget, instead of letting it expand indefinitely with no ceiling. Third, make sure your invisible wealth building, retirement contributions, investments, and emergency fund comes out automatically before status spending gets access to what's left. That way, the invisible side of your financial life doesn't have to compete for whatever happens to survive after the visible side is done spending. And fourth, get comfortable being underestimated for a while. This is the hardest part, honestly. The years where your invisible wealth is genuinely building are also the years where, on the surface, your life might look less impressive than people spending everything on visible status. That's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. Almost everyone who ends up quietly wealthy went through a period where they looked, by external measures, less successful than people who were actually far behind them financially.
Because here's the actual lesson underneath all of this. The scoreboard everyone else can see isn't the real scoreboard. The real scoreboard is invisible. It's measured in decades instead of Instagram posts, and it rewards exactly the kind of boring, unimpressive-looking decisions that never earn anyone a single compliment in the moment they're made.
Most people are playing to win the visible scoreboard because it's the only one that gives them feedback today. But the visible scoreboard and the real scoreboard aren't the same game, and you genuinely cannot win both simultaneously with the same dollars. Every dollar spent maintaining an image is a dollar that didn't go toward the invisible number that actually determines your long-term freedom. So the next time you catch yourself comparing your financial life to someone who seems like they're doing better, pause on that word seems. You're comparing your actual known financial reality to someone else's carefully curated visible surface. That's not a fair comparison, and it was never supposed to be one.
If this changed how you think about the difference between looking successful and being secure, hit subscribe. And tell me in the comments, honestly, what's one purchase in your own life that you now realize was more about how it looked than how it actually made you feel?